Hello and welcome back to this series of videos unpacking HSC oral music topics. Today we're going to tackle structure, what exactly that means and how we talk about it in an oral exam. Let's look into it. Structure is pretty much the order of ideas and sections within a piece of music. You can talk about macro structure, which is the structure of the whole piece in general. And you can also talk about microstructure, which is the structure of individual sections or melodies, rhythms, ideas within the piece. Some of the key terms and ideas that we can use include binary form, which is basically a piece with two sections, an A section and a B section. Ternary form, which is three sections, an A section, a B section, and then a repeat of the A section. Rondo form, which is multiple sections but interspaced with a repeating section. So this usually looks like A, B, A, C, A, and then it can go on and on, D, A, E, A, whatever. Like it could go on forever if you want, but they're not going to go on forever. The core idea is that you have one section that keeps coming back with different sections in between. There's strophic form, which is a song with one repeating section. So in other words, it would be A, 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 A. There's a 12-bar blues. This is a 12-bar pattern that follows this specific chord progression. There are some variations in there, but that's the classic one. There's theme and variation, which is the establishment of an idea, followed by variations on that idea. We can talk about repetition, so repeating patterns, sequences, or sections. There's imitation, where an idea is played by one instrument and then quickly repeated by another one. There's call and response, where one instrument or section asks a question and the other gives an answer, so taking turns, and there's usually like a resolution in this. Unlike imitation, they're not playing the same thing, they're playing different things that complement each other, and often if there's something unresolved in the question, it's resolved in the answer. There's common song forms used in popular music, so you might have heard these as verse, chorus, bridge, pre-chorus, all that sort of stuff. These are typically called verse-chorus form, and then within that you can identify verse, chorus, as we said before, bridges. You might have instrumental sections, you might have solos, pre-choruses, post-choruses, intros or outros. And there's also something called sonata form, which is a tradition that emerged out of the Baroque period and was popularized in the classical and romantic period. Now, these structures have three sections, starting with an exposition. Now, in the exposition, we get musical layers and themes that are introduced and played in the tonic key, so the home key. Then it modulates either from major to dominant, or if that tonic key is a minor, then it moves from minor to the relative major key. The themes and ideas are then explored in different keys before ending with something called a codetta. The second section is called development. Now, in the development section, the themes and ideas from the first section are repeated in different keys with variations. Depending on the genre, these could be brief. That's typically from Baroque or classical sonata form ideas, or longer, like the Romantic traditions. New ideas can also be introduced here, and it traditionally finishes with a retransition where we end up on a dominant seventh chord to shift back to the tonic. The third section in a sonata form is the recapitulation. The recapitulation is basically a reprise of the main themes from the exposition, and the whole piece ends with an authentic cadence, so a 5-1, back to the tonic that we first started the piece in. If you're stuck and don't know how to label your sections, refer to them as letters. So talk about A section, B section, C section. And if you get something like an A section, but there's a significant change in it, but you can still hear that it's a clear reference to the A section, you can call it A1 and then identify the variations and why it's different from the first A. You can very easily tie structure and duration together by talking about how long the sections are, how long they last for, and any variations in the length of sections, whether that's variation between an A section and a B section, or variations between an A section and then a repeat of an A section that's maybe 2 bars shorter, or whatever it is. And similarly, you can talk about the length of phrases. So if you're talking about, maybe you've got a verse structure that is made up of two melodies, so a binary melodic form, so an A part and a B part, throughout the whole verse repeated. So maybe it goes A, B, A, B. And then within that, you can talk about the duration of that verse as a total, but also the duration of the lines within the verse. That's getting pretty deep into the microstructure details of music there, but that can be really useful if you've got a question that's asking you about how structure and duration relate to each other, and you're feeling stuck on how they connect in the macro sense of the piece. And just remember that when in doubt, state the obvious. Don't be afraid of stating the obvious. Let me know if you've got any questions at all, and I will catch you in the next one.